Hey tankers, and welcome back to World of Tanks with PR154, where we are once again returning to our Back to Basics series. This is a series that is aimed at new and developing players and focuses on those vehicles in the formative tiers 1 to 5. Now in this case we are looking at the PanzerKampgwagen II. It is the Tier II German light tank. It's the second vehicle along basically all of the German tech tree lines. It is characterized by quite a high damage per minute. Mobility is adequate, but pretty average. Doesn't have a hell of a lot of armor as well. It excels against same tier and lower tier vehicles, thanks to its rather cutting 20 millimeter autocannon. But in this case, we are in an engagement against vehicles that are a tier higher than us. In this case, we are greeted by a full platoon of Panzer S-35s. This is a situation that, as a lower tier tanker, you need to be quite wary of, and you need to know how to deal with these situations, because there are a lot of players that veteran players that are going to jump in these overpowered premium vehicles and just drop tiers to either pad their stats or pick up daily missions or whatever the case might be. In that case, knowing your enemy, knowing their armor characteristics, and knowing your own penetration characteristics start to become quite critical. We didn't really labor on that point in our last video. We didn't need to. It was all tier 1. But here we're tier 2s under tier 3s. The frontal armour of Panzer S-35 is 50 millimeters, but the penetration of our standard AP is only 39 millimeters. We get 51 millimeters with our premium APCR, which has enabled us to cause sustained damage to that Panzer S-35. But as we'll see in the detailed report later, that action will have come at a bit of a price. In any case, we're able to knock out the first Panzer S-35, but we're really not confident of having the juice to stay in that fight and knock out the other two. So we're going to push this flank instead. For one reason, it gets us the hell away from the other two Panzer S-35s. And we do enjoy a bit of numerical superiority in this field as it is. This will enable us to push this line a lot more quickly, clear all the enemy vehicles out of this area, and then we can start to either move in to flank the enemies in the city, or we can exert pressure on the cap. Overall, we are actually 3 tanks up on the enemy team. But as you can see, we're using a standard ammunition, and we're having a much more significant effect on target against things we can actually penetrate than if we were to push through the city and attempt to keep engaging those Panzer S-35s. So we picked up our first kill of the game on the T-26, and we are just about to pick up our second on the Stridsvagn M38. We can see just how effective this 20 centimeter autocannon is at close range, particularly when we're shooting into the sides and the rears of enemy vehicles that just don't have that sufficient armor to resist the 39 millimeters of penetration of the standard shells. Now, of course, that only works well at close range. At long ranges, it's not a particularly accurate gun, and the burst tends to bloom the gun out. Despite best endeavours, we're losing a few shots downrange at this M2 light. We only actually landed and connected with just one of those shells. So we're not going to be able to do too much from this distance. The enemy putting us into a potentially tough choice here. They've now cleared out all the friendly vehicles this side of the cap circle. So our cap circle is now open to them, and they have been able to close the numbers gap between us and the enemy. We now only have a 2-gun advantage. Now we could potentially push up through and fight our way through these vehicles and still potentially get into the flanks of these vehicles, but that may be somewhat in vain, as they're going to be likely to be turning around to come after us, or they'll be heading towards the cap circle already. In fact, they do have the jump on us. They've started to cap early. The M2 light, the friendly M2 light, has seen the writing on the wall, and they've headed back to the cap to start capping it out. I didn't actually see anyone else heading back there, so I thought, right, I'll go in and support you. I'm at less than a third of my hit points. I don't have a huge amount of combat effectiveness. I'll maybe eat 2 shells from one of these Panzer S-35s, and I'll be out of the game, assuming I can even get any damage on those Panzer S-35s. So we're going to where we feel we're going to be the most useful. We can see the enemy S-35 has joined the M2 Light on the cap, but fortunately the enemy M2 Light was reset by the Panzer T-15, and it's just the S-35. The team was able to wrap up the other enemy S-35. That was the major threat there, and now they're landing on the enemy S-35 and really limiting its capturing ability of our base. But we have been able to make all the right decisions, get our tank to do the right things at the right time, and capture this base out. But of course, careful use of our ammunition earlier in the game against the targets that were downrange were necessary to get to this point. Let's take a quick look at those results. So for our efforts there, that was a level 2 mastery badge, meaning the experience points that we'd taken in this fight were better than 80% of other players within the last week within that tank. We'd also picked up the Bruiser Medal for damaging enemy vehicle modules or crew members at least 5 times in the course of the battle. We'd also picked up the Duelist Medal for destroying at least 2 enemy vehicles that have caused damage to us in turn, and the Fire for Effect Medal, where we've caused more damage to enemy vehicles than the equivalent value of hit points of our vehicle. In this case, we've caused nearly 960 hit points of damage, and we've sent 3 enemy vehicles back to the garage. Having a look at the team scores, we have placed second on experience. Top honours go to a PanzerKampfwagen S-35 of our own. So I guess that's the way it goes. Top honours on the enemy team, of course, being the triple platoon of PanzerKampfwagen S-35s. Some turn up to club, others turn up to get clubbed, and some turn up to actually club clubbers. There is a risk involved in that. Those who club clubbers run the risk of becoming clubbers themselves. As you grip the club grips back. You weren't expecting that sort of deep philosophy from a video game today, were you? Having a look at the detailed report, this does, on the face of things, look like quite a profitable battle, but I tell you, nothing could be further from the truth. In fact, I was actually didn't have any credits at the time, so I couldn't actually pay for the ammunition that was expended that battle. So because I didn't have enough credits available, they didn't charge me for the ammo. I'd have to put it on later. So while it looks like I made a 20,000 credit profit, in actual fact, when I went to go and apply that ammunition back onto the tank, I was due for a bill of nearly 22,000 credits. So we were running a slight deficit here on the PanzerKampfwagen II, and I guess that's predominantly a function of having to put so much premium ammunition into the PanzerKampfwagen S-35 as it rounded the bend on us. It was a bit of a do or die situation there, and I certainly didn't intend to go on fighting the other two. So in any case, we knew what we could or couldn't penetrate. We've used our ammunition to the situation. It has been a little bit costly. We would have lost about 2,000 credits overall in that fight, but in any case, we've survived and we've won. So happy with that result, and hopefully you can go on to emulate those sort of decisions in your own play when you're running up against the SEAL clubbers in such tanks. In the meantime, happy tanking and take care.